Welcome to this tutorial showing you how to create a piece of work in response to the artist Giacomo Costa. And you'll find in Photopea I have opened up the image I'm going to use at the bottom of my piece, along with a variety of other buildings that I took photographs of up in London. Okay, first thing I'm going to do on my bottom piece is remove the sky. So with the magic wand tool, I'm clicking on the sky, and because it's all one colour, it all gets masked, so I press delete and it goes. Okay, next up I'm going to just rotate this a tiny little bit because it feels a little bit like it could be a bit straighter, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger so that it fills the canvas. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to bring it down because I don't want too much road showing, so just enough to comfortably fit those people in at the bottom. And then I'm going to make the canvas size bigger, so I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size, and I'm going to go to percent and turn the height up to 150, making sure the anchor is in the bottom middle. Okay. Click OK, and then Control and 0 to zoom out, show you the whole thing. And I have lots of space at the top now to add some more buildings. Okay. Before I do that, I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation, and put up the saturation a bit on these buildings so they're a little bit more colourful. Okay, and then I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and bring up the contrast a little bit and the brightness just a tiny bit. Okay, right, now I'm going to get my first building that I'm going to add in, and I need to get rid of the sky, and I'm going to use a combination of the magic wand, which will get rid of quite a lot of the sky, and the Polygonal select tool, which I will then use to cut round the building where it needs to be cut round, and that will help me then delete the clouds. Okay, I can then use the Polygonal lasso tool to go round the building, ignoring the rest of the things in the sky because I don't need to worry about them. And then I Control C to copy, go back to my main piece, Control V to paste in, and there it is. And I'm going to use the arrow tool and Shift to resize without stretching or squashing it. And I'm going to place it in that gap there in between the buildings and drag it down so it's below the front layer. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same, Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, bring up the contrast a bit and the brightness a tiny bit, and then Image, Adjustments, Hue, Saturation, and I'm going to bring up the saturation a little bit. Okay, that's good. Right, next building. So I go to my next photo, and again, magic wand first. That will help me take off the majority of the sky, and then the Polygonal lasso tool to help me take off the other bits. Okay. And once I've done that, I'll use the rectangle select tool just to select the whole thing. Control C to copy it, then Control V to paste it into my project, and then the arrow tool, holding Shift so I don't stretch or squish it. I'll resize, and I think it looks pretty good there. I'm going to drag that down and then maybe shimmy that bit over. As you build this, you'll find things need a little bit more moving around. That's the beauty of the layers. You get to choose how big things are and where to place them without worrying about the other layers. Okay. Right, all good. Now I'm going to use the image adjustments hue saturation just to saturate and make it a bit more colourful. And then image adjustments brightness and contrast just to up the contrast a bit. And that's good. Okay. Right, next building. Lots of white background on this one, so I press magic wand and press delete, and that gets rid of most of the sky. Then I'm going to grab the polygonal select tool and just go around the rest of the sky close to the building, so we can get rid of those other aspects of the sky that we don't need. Press delete, that gets rid of them. Okay, and then I can use the rectangle select tool to select the whole of the building. Press Ctrl C to copy it and Ctrl V to paste it into my project. And same as with the other buildings, arrow tool to resize, holding shift and placing it where I want it to be. Okay, I'm going to do the same again, image adjustments, brightness and contrast, up the brightness a little bit and the contrast a bit more, and image adjustments, hue saturation, and bring the saturation up. Okay, a bit too much there, bring it down a bit. Okay, right, next up I'm going to grab this photo, and you'll see a majority comes off with the magic wand, which is good. But I'm going to use the polygonal select tool just to take off those bits. I don't want my building tops to be too complicated. So I've taken those bits of scaffolding down, gone down and around, then Ctrl C to copy that, Ctrl V to paste that into my project. There it is. Then same again, use the arrow tool to resize, holding shift so it doesn't stretch or squish, and resize it so that it fits into another space. Okay, now we can drop that layer down and do the same again, image adjustments, brightness, contrast, bring up the brightness and the contrast, click OK. Image adjustments, hue saturation, and bring up the saturation a bit, make it a bit more colourful. Okay, right, next building, magic wand for the sky, press delete, just magic wand those other bits that were a bit darker. Okay, then we can grab the polygonal lasso tool because we only want these buildings here, not the other building. Okay, and then Ctrl C to copy that, and then Ctrl V back into our project. There it is. Okay, resize and position. And same as a minute ago, you might see something that you want to adjust and change at the same time, so go to that layer and adjust what you feel you need to. As I say, the beauty of different layers means you can change and adjust things as you need. Then image adjustments, saturation, bring up the saturation, and we're looking good. Okay, now to go to our next photo. There it is, and magic wand the background, a few different parts here because they are different colours. Okay, once that's done, polygonal lasso tool quite close to the building this time to make sure we don't catch any sky in our mask, and then Ctrl C to copy, Ctrl V to paste, resize using the arrow tool, And just give it a little rotate as well, so it works. And then resize. Okay, looking good. And we'll drop that layer down below the ones above. And same again, image adjustments, hue saturation, saturate the image a bit so it's more colourful. Image adjustments, contrast and brightness, bring up the contrast and the brightness a tiny bit. Okay. Right, I'm going to keep doing those buildings, but I'm not going to bore you by making you have to watch. So I'm going to cut away and I'm going to come back with all my buildings having been done and dusted in exactly the same way. Okay, so I've got a few more tweaks to do. First thing I'm going to do is make a new layer. And I'm going to go to the color select. And I'm going to grab a very, very pale blue and use the paint bucket to fill the layer. Okay, then I'm going to drag that layer right down the bottom. And I have a nice light blue sky. Okay, I'm then going to take all of the building layers, not the new sky layer, just the buildings, and I'm going to merge them together. So that I can just tweak the colours a bit. So I'm going to go image adjustments, hue saturation, and I'm going to bring the saturation up a bit. Click OK, so they're nice and colourful. Then image adjustments, and I'm going to go colour balance. I'm just going to bring the colours to a kind of more Giacomo Costa style tint. I would highly advise you having a piece of his work open in front of you so you can have a look at it and use it as a guide. And just one more thing, image adjustments, brightness and contrast, and I'm just going to bring the brightness up just a tiny bit. And that's it. Click OK. And that is our piece done and dusted. I hope you find this tutorial helpful.